Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Thursday, first night of Hanukkah edition, or as Dom would call it, Friday Eve.
Friday Eve. Good to see you, Crudy. Fun couple of days, man. Nate working the board. Thank you, sir. Our fair audience. Happy Friday Eve.
Dominic, here are a few of the compelling headlines, a few of the topics for this big show. Well, we've got Trump on trial. And he was in the courtroom again today, and he made comments, so we've got a little bit of the Trump sound. Not from the courtroom, but outside the courtroom. Also, Dom, big debate. Question mark last night, the GOP undercard debate. It happened. And there's some really back guano stuff that went on during that debate last night. So if you missed it, and I'll be honest, Dom and I were partying a little bit, back-to-back nights. Because, you were in town. We missed the debate.
I wouldn't say we missed it, Gertie.
Well, we'll give you a little bit of the, let's just say, leftovers today.
Oh, my.
Nothing
Vivek
like
and Ramaswamy. No, these guys, it's unbelievable. And I'm glad I didn't get to waste my time with it, but it's been interesting today, catching up, let's call it. The highlights or the lowlights as it may be.
Dominic, where I want to start today, though, is unbeatable Tammy Baldwin has her next victim. Who is the Danny California running against our Tammy Baldwin?
Eric Hovde. Lawrence Andre reporting Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Eric Hovde will challenge Democrat Tammy Baldwin for Senate, the NRSC chair says. That's the National Republican Senatorial Committee chair, Steve Daines. He said, he told the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Wednesday that wealthy Madison banking mogul will enter the race in the near future with the backing from the Senate GOP's top campaign arm. Hovde's going to get in the race, Daines, a Montana Republican, said during a brief interview outside the Senate's subway system. We're behind him. Hovde. Now, there's no quote specifically from Hovde. He did not respond to the Journal's inquiries. But according to Daines, it's on.
Dom, I've known it's on. I've reported right here on the greatest radio show ever with you. It's on like Donkey Kong. How do I know that?
How do you know that, Crudy?
Here is the little tell.
Yeah.
It's the sign out by the highway on 3990 north south. Have you driven to Wausau recently or up towards Stevens Point, Plover area? There's a sign. I believe it's just going into Washura County. It's just north of like Westfield. But there's a Eric Hovde for U.S. Senate sign. It's been there for freaking months. It's been there since late summer, I swear.
Yeah, right.
But this ain't like a farmer homemade job. This isn't someone trying to draft Hovde for U.S. Senate. This guy has had a senatorial campaign logo for months. How do I know? The sign's been sitting out by the highway for freaking months. Of course he's running. I told you he's running.
But he hasn't said it yet. Crudy, is it a digital sign or is it just like a regular old-fashioned sign?
Think like a printed vinyl banner sign out by the highway. And it's relatively large. I'd guess maybe 6 feet by 8 feet, something like that.
Oh, okay. So not a traditional billboard sign.
No, not a traditional. That would definitely be a tell. But this is, how at the end of the Farmer's Row out by the highway, some of them have leased just a little bit of land to these campaigns, or they'll put their support for the campaigns. Well, someone wanted to get out before the freeze, Dom, way out in front of the freeze. But whoever they hired out there by Highway 3990 north-south, they put the sign out prematurely. That sign's been out there for months.
Crute Scott Mayer, a businessman from Franklin, Wisconsin, and former Milwaukee County Sheriff David A. Clark Jr., who has been in a public feud with the National Republicans, are also considering Senate runs against, again, Tammy Baldwin. Released for comment on Wednesday, Mayer dismissed Dane's remarks. Quote, the NRSC does not elect people. The people in the state elect the candidate.
Is that California or Wisconsin we're referencing?
They are really immaterial to me, he added, of the NRSC, saying the group would 100% back him if Hovde doesn't get in the race. It's the people of Wisconsin that elect the candidate, and I've got enough support from all the wealthy Wisconsin connections that are out there that we're all aware of, that I will get plenty of support from the people of Wisconsin, which is more important to me than people outside the state.
So he's got the backing of the rich Wisconsinites. And perhaps the U lines across the border, right? Is that what he's telling us?
Maybe. Mayer labeled false a statement from Danes made to the Journal-Sentinel saying Mayer would not run if Hovde entered the race. Mayer said he's met with Danes, but does not recall saying that. I do know that none of us want the bloody primary in Wisconsin. I can tell you that. I want a bloody primary in Wisconsin, Crute.
I'd be okay with it.
I'd love to hear their contrasting ideas on how they would move Wisconsin forward.
Well, they'd spend millions and millions of dollars, right? And then they'll beat the snot out of each other. Do you remember the wounded Tommy Thompson back in 2012? I really did think that Tammy Baldwin was against an insurmountable candidate. The guy had won, election as governor 4 frickin' times, something like that? Well, he came through the primary battered and bruised, and Tammy held on effectively against him, killed your girl Vukmer, and I'm just wondering, Hovde, are you the newest victim? Laguna Beach, Dan.
Concluding the piece of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Danes and National Republicans have their sights fixed on Hovde. We're planning on seeing Eric Hovde make some announcements here in the not-too-distant future, and he'll be the nominee we'll support.
Dominic, in recent months, Hovde sold off more than $4.3 million in stock, diversifying, liquidating just in time. Money the multimillionaire could put towards the beginning of a Senate run, but he told the Journal-Sentinel at the time those transactions had nothing to do with politics. And while there is no clear timeline of when Republicans might make announcements, Republicans in the state have marked early 2024 as the likely date for declarations. Time to put up or shut up, right? Mayer told the Journal-Sentinel last month he was looking at January and February to make his own decision. Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. on the John Frederick show Wednesday suggested he would make an announcement as we get into the new year, early in the new year.
Yeah, it's pitchforks and torches time in America. Crute Hovde declined a Journal-Sentinel request for comment Wednesday evening. A source close to Hovde said he is, quote, continuing to talk with supporters and is looking forward to spending time with family and friends over the holidays. Yes, aren't we all?
Dominic, here's more. Baldwin's campaign declined to comment, and the Madison Democrat issued a plea for donations Thursday, referencing the news that Hovde planned on entering the race. A spokesman for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and I did invite our good friend Ben Wickler here today, late notice. And
that's how we do it sometimes.
It's the first night of Hanukkah, so apparently spending time with family, Dom. But anyways, here is what the Democratic Party spokesman said. He was quick to label the potential Republican Senate primary brutal, Dom, as Mitch McConnell and the D.C. Republicans get behind a mega millionaire California bank owner. Another mega millionaire is teasing a run, and a MAGA sheriff is waiting in the wings. According to Eric Volk, a rapid response director of the Democratic Party, all of the Republicans lining up to run against Tammy Baldwin are out of touch with Wisconsin values. And you did mention Hovde's keeping her close to the vest. Mayer, too, has been making the rounds. He told the Journal-Sentinel last month that he had meetings with big players in the state, including Republican mega donors. Wait for it, Dom. Dick and Liz Uline.
There we go.
I'm doing all my appropriate due diligence. You're going to talk to the rich people.
Right. How much
and beg
are
them
you
for
going to
money.
give me? Right.
I'm doing all my appropriate due diligence that any business person would do. Mayor said I've met with all the appropriate people. So Dick, Liz, and the widow Hendricks. Because I didn't get that meeting, Scott.
No. Hey, let me check. Wait. Nope. Nothing from Mayor.
Again, from Danes with the NRSC, right?
Yes.
We are planning on seeing Hovde make some announcement here in the not too distant future, and he'll be the nominee we support. I think you said that, but I like to rub it in a little bit to the others considering a run. You got the establishment.
What do you think? This is interesting, though. What do you think is more influential, more important, the NRSC or the widow Hendricks and the Uline's money?
Oh, the money's most important. I mean, hell, they help Michaels win that race, that primary, that very important primary. But the question then becomes, what happens to the winner of the primary, right? I mean, what was Tim Michaels' position in the gubernatorial primary to beat Rebecca Clayfish? Oh, he was all in MAGA. He was all in on abortion with no exceptions for rape or incest. I mean, how do you win a Republican primary not going full MAGA? Going full balls to the wall, crazy, go nuts, Dom, because that's what the base apparently wants from their leadership. I give you example A, Ron Johnson.
Oh, let's not forget, the Wisconsinites, according to Michaels, we're just a bunch of lazy people. We got to get off our ass and work. I know that COVID money and all that, but that was a long time ago. But yeah, but that was Uline money, right? That's what you're saying. And of course, he had millions of his own, and apparently Hovde is very well off.
Money back.
He literally said
that. My only point is a carpetbagger out-of-state candidate, living in the state of Wisconsin 183 days a year for tax filing purposes and future candidates. Candidacies, apparently. Well, Tim Michaels was out of touch with the state of Wisconsin. He lost, or did he win or lose? I guess he beat Rebecca Clayfish. He brought Trump in to insult her in her own backyard. Never earned her endorsement, at least not publicly. Never saw a reconciliation meeting between the two candidates.
No shaking of the hands, no kissing of the cheeks.
And I would say there are probably some Clayfish supportive that stayed home. Well, after this brutal primary on the Republican side, they're all going to stay home, and Tammy's going to hand them their lunches and their asses. More Devil's Advocates. Eric Hovde, welcome to the party, pal.
You have questions about whether legal cannabis is right for you? I'm Alan Robinson, co-founder of Herbal Aspect. Cannabis is my business, my vocation, and my passion. Schedule an in-person or virtual cannabis consultation with me. A $50 value at no cost, just for Devil Radio listeners. Receive personalized advice, benefit from my undivided attention, and I'll guide you through helping you make an informed choice among Herbal Aspect's extensive selection. And get 10% off your first purchase when you use the code DevilRadio at herbalaspect.com.
Annual Donate and Save event is on now at Hula Eyewear. Through December 31st, bring in a gently loved pair of glasses or a bag of non-perishable food items and get up to $100 off. Hula offers glasses, readers, and sunglasses with fun, stylish, uniquely you frames for all ages, lifestyles, and price points. And don't forget to use your Flex and HSA money before the end of the year. Donate and save up to $100 today at Hula Eyewear in the Hilldale Shopping Center, Madison.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always join us on the lines at 844-967-2789.
So a Californian, Eric Hovde, who claims he's a Madisonian, but he lives in Laguna Beach, California. Apparently he's gearing up to run for the U.S. Senate here from the state of Wisconsin. How do I know that? The sign's been out by the highway for months. I'm telling you, that was a hell of a tell, Eric Hovde, that you're running. But Dom, California's losing another question mark of their best and brightest.
Oh, no.
We forgot to mention it yesterday on the big show, and I should mention, you can always be a part of the big show. Join us, 844-967-2789. But the former speaker, Kevin McCarthy, is he going back to spend more time with his rich donors in California in Orange County, Dom? I mean, isn't that where literally Eric Hovde lives? Eric Hovde lives in Kevin McCarthy's district, does he not?
Oh, I was not aware of that. That's interesting.
I'll look it up. I'll
Look it up.
for
All right. What?
sure.
California, whatever. But yes, I mean, McCarthy, what? This walking away? What about your duty? It's as interesting as well. I mean, what a fall. I mean, he was Speaker of the House. Of course, a very tenuous deal to gain that leadership position. Had to cut a lot of deals, and that ended up coming back to bite him at the end. So now he's hanging it up and going away, man. Checking out after the first of the year. Barely knew you, Kevin. Go catch those checks, I assume. 844-967-2789. But that is one less Republican in the House. We'll get to that. MTG has something to say about that. Jack from Merrimack, you're up. Happy Friday Eve, Jack. What do you got for us?
Hey, happy Friday Eve to you guys too. There's this Hovde guy, and it looks like another carpetbagger who's trying to buy his way into a nomination in Wisconsin. And wasn't there a guy that a little while back, Michaels, somebody that tried
Tim
to
Michaels.
do that in the gubernatorial race?
Yeah, Tim Michaels.
In any case,
You're just a lazy, memoried Wisconsinite. That's your problem, Jack.
That's me. Anyway, it looks like this guy is hopefully Wisconsin residents will be aware enough that where this guy is coming from. This guy, if I recall correctly, speaking of lazy memory for Wisconsinites, if I recall correctly, he ran for the nomination in 2012, was it? And I think one of his main planks on his platform was to get rid of health care for about 30 million people, called repeal the ACA. I think that's a wonderful thing. A guy should run on that again, along with controlling women's medical rights. He'd do a real good job on that, both of those. Yes, that is sarcasm.
Thank you, Jack, for the explanation. 844-967-2789.
You know, I looked up the current district of Kevin McCarthy. He's in California's 20th congressional district. Here is why he does not represent Eric Hovde. No oceanfront in that district. He's landlocked. Think like Bakersfield, and then it kind of scoots up to Fresno, where Fresno State's at. And it includes Edwards Air Force Base, but does not include any oceanfront. And you know that's where Mr. Hovde lives, out by the Laguna Beach on the oceanfront.
The Hill reporting, Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene offered a grim outlook on the shrinking GOP majority after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced his plans to resign by the end of the month, Wednesday. Now, in 2024, we will have a one-seat majority in the House of Representatives, Greene wrote. Congratulations, Freedom Caucus, for one, and 105 reps who expel our own for the other. I can assure you, Republican voters didn't give us the majority to crash the ship. Hopefully, no one dies, she added. Hopefully. Of course, referencing the House Freedom Caucus's push to remove McCarthy from his role early this year and the 105 reps who joined almost all the Dems to expel George Santos. Damn. So yeah, there's a little bit of attrition going on in the GOP House right now.
Dom, one of the texters takes note of the fact Hovde rhymes with Michaels.
Nice.
And Kelly, right? Twice. Right. 2 L's in Kelly. Can't spell Kelly without 2 L's. Someone else asking if my mic should be louder. I should always be the loudest host. I think I should.
Got some level issues, perhaps. Also, the Hill, after McCarthy steps down, Republicans will only be able to afford 3 GOP defections to pass any party line legislation. In addition, Rep. Bill Johnson, a Republican from Ohio, also plans to step down in the first quarter of next year to become the president of Youngstown State University. So it's
Isn't
getting
Patrick McHenry also retiring? Is at the end of his term in 24? He's not leaving.
he's just not running again, right?
Contemplate his career as Speaker Pro Tem.
So what's McCarthy's? Obviously, and some of the
He's
reporting,
bitter.
he's mad, right? So he's mad as hell, and he's not going to take it anymore. And he is the fundraiser, right? He is a big fundraiser
He
for
makes it
the
rain.
GOP. He does, and so not what you're going to have Mega Mike's going to be that guy now. I mean, he may be a lot of things, but my understanding, he's not the prolific fundraiser that McCarthy is. So what McCarthy's going to walk away. He's still got the Rolodex. He's going to form a super PAC and go after those that tried that cost him his job and make tons of money doing it. I mean, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't you do that?
He'll be your vessel of retribution.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Trump's role, but Kevin McCarthy, maybe retribution adjacent.
Of their own, man. They're eating their own. The Republican Party's in disarray.
No, this is about as well as they ever run, near as I can tell them.
I mean,
It has been quite some time since I saw a functioning Republican Party. I mean,
yeah, for real.
Do we have to go H.W. Bush days? I mean, must I long for Dick Cheney? At least his daughter's got a conscience. Although he might shoot me in the face. I'm not going hunting with him. Or you. I've made that pledge. No Cheney.
Hey, I've been working on it, man. I've been working on it.
I can just feel it now. Back to the left. Back to the left.
Terrible, man. 844-967-2789. So the last time there was a functioning Republican Party in Congress, I don't know, man. Newt? You going back to Newt? Was that functioning?
With America?
That was
how'd they blow it?
Successful for them.
How'd they blow it? Do you remember how they blew it? Because they were strong after they made the contract with America. But how did the Newt Congress blow it? Well, of course, they
impeaching Bill Clinton,
the Democratic president. Not for any legitimate reason, to some people's assessment, but for a sexual peccadillo and then lying about it, right?
To a federal judge, yes.
What lessons could the current Congress learn from that Newt Congress? Oh no, they're going to impeach Joe Biden, right?
I mean, it worked so
language forward with alacrity.
Worked so well last time, Crute. Why wouldn't they do it again? Impeachment for you, impeachment for you. They just want to make it seem like it's just another day and everybody's doing it. But of course, that's not the case. Perhaps we'll get there.
Come back, more devils. And a big GOP debate last night.
Was it?
I didn't miss it. Leftover broccoli ain't the greatest.
California love. California love. Yeah.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A Republican prosecutor says he plans to appeal this week's court ruling allowing consensual medical abortions in Wisconsin. Sheboygan County District Attorney Joel Ermansky maintains state law clearly outlaws abortions and that he disagrees with Dane County Judge Diane Schlipper's finding to the contrary. The question is an 1849 Wisconsin law the conservatives interpret as banning abortion. Wisconsin is getting $2.5 million to study new Amtrak service in Madison, Green Bay, and Eau Claire that would connect with Milwaukee, Chicago, and the Twin Cities. Wisconsin is also getting federal grants to support studying expanding service between Milwaukee and Chicago on the existing Hiawatha line, as well as adding a third daily round trip between Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Twin Cities through Wisconsin. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. The Sun Prairie City Council unanimously voted to block a zoning change that would have allowed a controversial housing development proposed by the Black Men Coalition of Dane County. The development would have prioritized housing people with a criminal record. Sun Prairie residents raised a wide range of concerns, from safety in the neighborhood to its impact on potential flooding events in the surrounding area. The vote doesn't kill the project, but now the developers either need a new plan for the same location or find somewhere else to build. The Madison Public Library is accepting applications for its library takeover program. Groups who participate in the program will take classes on event planning and eventually be able to put on a fully funded event next year. The library will pick 3 teams of 3 to 4 people to participate, who will get $2,000 to plan and fund their event. Applications close at the end of January. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called the sign, had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them?
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So...
You need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Marquette rebounds with a win over Texas. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Marquette Golden Eagles, after losing to Wisconsin, bounced back with an 85-65 win over Texas. Tyler Kolek with 28 points and 8 rebounds. Marquette now ranked 8th in the nation when they host Notre Dame Saturday night. The Wisconsin women's volleyball team in the Sweet 16, a part of the NCAA tournament, they're going to host Penn State today at the UW Fieldhouse. NBA, it's the Bucks and the Pacers in Las Vegas. In the next round of the in-season tournament, we ought to spend some time at the craps tables.
Whatever happens in Vegas, you know what I'm saying?
But you'll bring the trophy home if you win it.
I don't know. I might stay in Vegas. Well, do we get some cash if we win?
Yeah, you get some cash too.
Play some blackjack.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I'm gonna go play some roulette. Put it on black.
Okay.
Double my money. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
Red 34. Red 34. You know, I know.
That's the Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Weather brought to you by the Wine and Hop Shop, Madison's local source for home brewing and winemaking supplies at affordable prices.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 42. South winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Highs around 54 tomorrow. Cloudy tomorrow night. Scattered rain showers likely 38. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 47 degrees.
Love wine or beer? Make your own. The Wine and Hop Shop has home brewing and winemaking starter kits for all budgets. With our free expert advice, making your own is fun, easy, and delicious. Visit the Wine and Hop Shop at 1919 Monroe Street in Madison and at wineandhop.com today. Give the gift of a hobby with a home brewing or winemaking starter kit from the Wine and Hop Shop. The shop starter kits and free expert advice make
Check.
wine a snap. Be a holiday hero and visit the Wine and Hop Shop at 1919
Check.
Broadcasting from the city where the official bird is the plastic pink flamingo.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Thursday that makes it Friday Eve edition. Dom's looking at me quizzically. You don't know this Disney too, do you, Dom?
See,
I'm
no.
using it to troll Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
What happens if one wins the GOP undercard debate and nobody cares? You'd have to ask Ron DeSantis. Apparently he had a good night last night relative to the other yahoos.
Really?
They're down to the final four, Dom. They've got Nikki Haley. They've got Christie. They've got Vivek Ramaswamy. And they've got Ron DeSantis. And, of course, the 800-pound orange elephant in the room is the fact that Trump's not on the stage. He's up by like 40 points on DeSantis in Florida. So that sets the stage.
And he was in court today. I don't see how. I mean, no, I know, but how do you, as candidates running against him, You know what I'm saying? How is this not on the tip of your lips every time you talk? Oh, that's right. You're afraid of his followers.
You will hear some of the most outrageous statements of lick spittle ass kissing from Vivek Ramaswamy in just a minute, Dom, but a little of the coverage here at the Post in the fourth and final Republican debate poll of 2023. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis edged out former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley as the candidate Republican debate watchers thought performed best. That is a low bar.
It certainly is.
Former President Donald Trump once again declined to participate in the debate, but as can be the case throughout the primary, each of the candidates is still running far behind him in the race for the GOP presidential nomination. And with less than 6 weeks before the Iowa caucuses kick off the nomination contest, there is little time for these candidates to close the gap. So, of the 538 Washington Post Ipsos poll of potential Republican primary and caucus voters who watched Wednesday's debate, and you'd need to sample in pretty much all of them, Dom, to get a fair sample size of the watchers of the debate. They found that 30% thought DeSantis performed best. 23% chose Haley. This is a turn in fortunes for Haley after the last debate. Our poll found 34% liked her best. And Vivek Ramaswamy performed worst, according to 37% of viewers. Performed best, according to just 16%. And Chris Christie also offended many in the crowd by talking truth. But that's a contrast to what Vivek Ramaswamy did. And I know you watched absolutely none of this last night, Dom. I was hanging out with you, and I know we weren't watching the debate.
No, we weren't.
So it's always better the second time around. Here's your day-old warmed over broccoli of a GOP debate, not featuring Trump last night. Just a few. I don't have them in front of me, but let's start with Vivek Ramaswamy.
Nikki Haley was heaping praise on me when I wrote that book, but now I worry. I was warning about the woke industrial complex in this country as a warning. Apparently, she read it as a how-to manual.
Ooh, the woke industrial complex.
He's so clever, that Vivek. And then he said this, Dom, about the January 6th, and I got to admit, my first reaction was belly laughter. Like, is this freaking guy serious? But I think he was serious. Nate played for the people of Vivek Ramaswamy GOP debate last night.
I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11. That the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform. That the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech. That the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who are licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking and criticizing him when it's convenient.
There's quite a bit to unpack there.
Yes. Would you like to start? Let's start with January
Okay.
6th
Yes.
inside job. Dom.
Inside
That's where
job. That's it.
I started laughing aloud to myself when I first, Nate, kind enough to pre-play this for me. Didn't watch it in real time, but I was laughing momentarily. Inside job, January 6th inside job. You sound like, and I literally heard U.S. Senator Ron Johnson today on an inferior down the dial righty-whitey product. And effectively, Ron is parroting this very thought today, is telling people today, well, you know, they're going after the January 6ers. They're going after them. They're swatting them. They're chasing them. They're using FBI resources to go chase down these, patriots, Dom, these tourists that maybe stepped outside the velvet ropes. I mean, I cannot believe that this is
Well, we
a
heard the
sentiment
speaker.
being expressed not just by a presidential candidate, but by a U.S. senator within 24 hours.
And let's not forget the Speaker of the House when releasing the tapes and from January 6th, how they had to, blur out some of the people's faces because he didn't want them to be called by the DOJ and prosecuted for their illegal acts. So literally doing a cover up. That's the Speaker. And now we have Ramaswamy. Well, the FBI already has those tapes. That's what I don't understand. I mean, I don't believe for a minute that those all unblurred, unredacted, whatever tapes are not in the hands of those who need them. So, this is all pandering to a base. So I'm just not clear on the conspiracy though, because there's lots of people convicted. People admitted, hey, yeah, I did that. Some were convicted. They're not the Feddies, right? They're not the federales. They're not the ones that they were the victims. So someone instigated them, someone riled them up, but it wasn't Trump. It was what? Feds within the Proud Boys? You know what I'm saying? I'm not clear what the theory is, because there was some riling up that day. That was Donald Trump, and he's going to be on trial for that.
What about the great replacement theory?
Oh my God, dude.
Being espoused and pushed back by Vivek Ramaswamy says, in fact, that is the platform of the Democratic, though I'm sure he just said Democrat Party, something of that matter. But the great replacement theory is what? That we're letting non-whites in to dilute the value of the white vote. And we know that Tucker Carlson used to peddle this crap quite a bit on the Foxy News, Dom. And we know it has its, what would you say, racist underpinnings, that this is the same sort of language that the Nazis used. Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong about this, because I'll correct the record, Dom, but that's my understanding of the great replacement theory. And the man who, I don't know if he noticed when he looked in the mirror most recently, but you ain't Caucasian. You don't fit the mold. So are you part of the problem, Vivek Ramaswamy? Are you self-loathing in this great replacement theory? You're part of the problem.
If you believe the theory, sure. And if he doesn't believe the theory, why are you talking about it? Well, of course, to ram up the base. But then wouldn't you want, if this is the case, Republicans and Vivek Ramaswamy, bring in other Vivek Ramaswamys, right? I mean, it's not assuming that everybody who comes into this country is going to be a Democrat, obviously, right? So, I mean, but this is specifically a racist philosophy, a racist theory. And it certainly is not in any of the platform of the Democratic Party. What are you talking about? He has a little bit more here, Vivek, getting on Haley, Nikki Haley, calling her corrupt. Let's play cut number 2, if you would please, Nate.
After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is. And now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt.
Says the wannabe billionaire. Because his only claim to fame is Vivek Ramaswamy is rich.
Oh, he's apparently
important stuff.
Quite a blowhard as well. And here's a cut. Vivek, he gets booed. Let's hear it, Nate. Cut 3.
The only person more fascist than the Biden regime now is Nikki Haley, who thinks the government should identify every one of those individuals.
Boo.
Yes,
Boo this man.
There were some others on the stage. Let's get the lowlights. Chris Christie, Trump a dictator. We heard that sound from Trump yesterday. Let's hear what Christie had to say about it. Cut 5.
Do I think he was kidding when he said he was a dictator? All you have to do is look at the history. And that's why failing to speak out against him, making excuses for him, pretending that somehow he's a victim, empowers him.
Empowers him. One more from Chris Christie. Trump is the issue. Cut 6.
The fact of the matter is, he is unfit to be president, and there is no bigger issue in this race, Megyn, than Donald Trump, and those numbers prove it.
Well, at least he's being consistent and going after Donald Trump. But
and he came out of that debate as the second lowest perceived
Right.
participant behind only the aforementioned Vivek Ramaswamy.
Tough day. He says he's taking it to the convention. We'll see. We have one cut from Nikki Haley. Let's play cut number 7.
Well, I don't think that you have a straight up Muslim ban as much as you look at the countries that have terrorist activity that want to hurt Americans. You can ban those people from those countries. That's the way we should look at it, is which countries are a threat to us.
The Muslim ban.
Selective Muslim ban. Just got to be a little more selective about which Muslims we ban, Dom.
What was the religion primarily of the January 6th insurrectionists when they beat up all those cops and injured all those folks and ransacked the Capitol? Were they primarily Muslims? I don't think so. Don't know, but I don't think so.
Praise be to God. 844-967-2789. I know you're dying to get to the New York Trump trial, Dom, but your overall impression, I mean, after the fact.
Well,
have they moved the needle?
No, come on, man. No, they haven't. Not with that. In the reporting that I've seen today, no. They're still way behind. So if Donald Trump doesn't go and if there's more debates next year and Donald Trump doesn't on the stage, hell, they're running out of time. And we got 6 weeks to Iowa, Crute, and this is the last debate between then and now. So they certainly have
last
their
debate between now and the end of the year. Theoretically, there could still be an Iowa debate, but if Trump won't participate, why bother?
I'd like to see, and it takes a little while, the numbers. Like how many people watched this debate last night? That's what I want.
5 million. Under 5 million. Right. You take the callers, and I'll work on the.
All right, let's do that. 844-967-2789. Mark from the SAC, you got about 60 seconds, man. What do you got for us?
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I think Vivek gets confused because I think he thinks he's one of the high caste descendants of India, and that he so that qualifies him to make a claim that he's not part of the lesser races that he likes to say that he was just talking about for this whole replacement theory. It's just disgusting.
It is. It's terrible. I was like, hey, man, you resemble that remark. Thanks for the call, Mark. A headline over at the Raw story. Let's go. Neo-Nazi delighted after GOP candidates promotes favorite conspiracy theory. Yeah,
Dominic,
that's who they're talking to.
Approximately 4 million people watched the 4th Republican presidential debate on the News Nation and the CW. I didn't know it was on the CW. But the other night when they had the red state, blue state debate, the Hannity debate,
yeah,
Foxy, well, Newsom, DeSantis drew over 5 million. More people watched the non-presidential debate than the Republican presidential debate last night. But, not everyone's got News Nation on their cable dials. Thank goodness. Come back. Your calls could be next. 844-967-2789. More Devil's Advocates. Thank goodness. WMDX. Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwy.com. That's Crute at darnwy.com.
I'm John. I'm Gordy. Join us for the John and Gordy Show, 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays.
Right here on WMDX Bad Radio in Madison.
Your family won't want to miss this shindig, hullabaloo, and politics.
John and Gordy Show, weekday morning, 6 to 8 a.m. right here.
Malarkey. The devil's advocates invented malarkey.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Join us on the lines at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the headline you referenced, and my favorite source, the Raw story. Let's go. Neo-Nazi delighted after GOP candidate promotes favorite conspiracy theory. And of course, we played the Vivek Ramaswamy sound. The question becomes is which one is his favorite conspiracy theory? Because he named quite a few, didn't he?
He sure did. Can he like them all?
Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy on Wednesday night promoted a conspiracy theory beloved by members of the neo-Nazi movement. I think I know which one, Dom. And now Vice reports that many neo-Nazis heard Ramaswamy's dog whistles loud and clear. Stand back and stand by, right, Dom? In particular, the publication zeroes in on the reaction of white supremacist influencer Nick Fuentes, who appeared happily astonished when Ramaswamy backed the Great Replacement conspiracy theory that Jewish financiers in the Democratic Party are plotting to replace white Americans with immigrants. And again, Dom, I would point out, Vivek Ramaswamy is an immigrant, or at least the child of immigrants. Fuentes appeared visibly shocked that Ramaswamy went so far. I was a little shocked myself. He watched open mouthed as Ramaswamy continued to boost wild conspiracies. Let's go! A visibly delighted Fuentes told his thousands of viewers. Fuentes was far from alone. The Vice report documented other instances of white supremacists and QAnon conspiracy theorists excited to hear Ramaswamy validate them before a mass audience. Well, 4.1 million. When someone like Ramaswamy promotes Great Replacement and other conspiracy theories, he's platforming a violent and paranoid ideology to a mainstream audience. It's clear that he speaks the language of conspiracy theory believers, anti-Semites, and extremists. Many of these same people have embraced his candidacy, according to Mike Rothschild, a researcher on conspiracy theories and extremism. Oh, he was a little extreme, Don.
A little bit. The Hill also reporting Van Jones, he's a CNN analyst these days, in a panel discussion after the fourth GOP primary debate, denounced Ramaswamy's embrace of conspiracy theories and warned, that guy is dangerous. That's dangerous. And I got to tell you, man, when you listen to that clip, this just rolls off his tongue. I mean, the guy just, it just comes out like so slick and smooth and slippery, and he just says all these things right in a row. It's like, wait, what? Back to Van Jones and the smug, condescending way that he just spews this poison out. It's very, very dangerous because he won't stop Trump, but he's going to outlive Trump by about 50 years. You're watching the rise of an American demagogue that is a very, very despicable person. And I was shaking listening to him talk because a lot of people don't know. This is one step away from Nazi propaganda coming out of his mouth. When those people are saying, Jews will not replace us, Jews will not replace us, that slogan sits on top of a very sick and twisted view that if you bring enough people of color here, we're so deficient, we are so stupid, we're so unwanted, that we will be zombies who fill out the ranks for some Democratic Party agenda that Jewish people are manipulating and driving forward, he said, explaining the conspiracy theory. That leads to violence. That puts at risk Jewish people. That puts at risk people of color. It's wrong. It's wrong. Yeah, it is wrong.
For those that just jumped in the car, joining us a little bit late, A, where were you? Should have quit work a little bit early. But B, let's play it again. Vivek Ramaswamy at the GOP debate last night said some pretty incredible things, and I don't mean that in a positive sort of way. The Great Replacement theory. Nate, if you're able, let's replay the quoting question just in case you missed it the first time.
I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11? that the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform.
Boom, there it was.
Wow.
There it was. And then he went on to throw a few more in for good measure. But January 6th was an inside job. 9/11, and you heard the reaction from the crowd. That drew cheers from the debate crowd in Tuscaloosa, Alabama last night. And then he pivoted, right? And oh yeah, the Saudis were involved in 9/11. Well, there's a kernel of truth there. We know a lot of the participants were Saudi Arabian. But then he took it in a different direction. The Great Replacement Theory, and validated the Great Replacement Theory and said, yes, it exists. In fact, it's the platform of the Democratic Party. And that's what I found troubling.
And no irony, I mean, lost here, Vivek Ramaswamy. You are, if you say this is happening, you are that person. You know what I'm saying? Are you kidding me? Or did you come here as some grand plan orchestrated by the Jews to fill up the ranks of the Democratic Party, Vivek Ramaswamy? Is that what you did? Because I highly doubt that's the case. So what is it about your experience versus everybody else's experience that gives you this wisdom, this insight, this knowledge that this replacement theory exists and it's part of the Democratic Party? But it was not for you, though, right? Not for you. You're too above that. You're too good for that. It wasn't you. It's everybody else. And you think the Republican, the hardcore Nazi voters are going to vote for you, sir? 844-967-2789. It is just beyond the pale. I mean, but what do we expect? Look at what's happening to the Republican Party's leader. The guy who's not on the stage was in court today again. Now, he didn't give testimony, apparently planning to give testimony, next week, Monday, and then the prosecutors will have a chance to rebut. But when you have the guy who all these folks on the stage are behind by 20 to 40 points, and that guy is in court for a $250 million fraud civil case that's already been found to be, yeah, he did it. Now it's about how much is he going to pay, let alone all the other things that this guy is facing. Are you surprised that one of the presidential nominees will be talking about great replacement theory? I'm not.
One of the listeners keeps texting me in real time, so I looked it up. The truth behind the Indian extremist anti-Muslim Great Replacement Theory, the subheadline at The Guardian, Hindu nationalist fears a demographic erasure by Muslims have been stoked by supremacists for years. The texter says, it's actually the Hindus. This has just been brought to the attention of the white nationalists here in America. But it's not a new concept. More devil's advocates. Nothing new under this world except great radio right here.
Then at 6, stay tuned for the Mickey Dome Show on Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. Mad Radio 92.7 programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Solidarity Realty, there is an alternative.
If you're craving the authentic flavors of Mexico, the place to be in Madison is Casa Fiesta. With over 2 decades of culinary expertise, their passionate chef is ready to tantalize your taste buds, and their friendly staff ensures a fantastic dining experience. Plus, get your sing-on with Mexican and American karaoke every Friday and Saturday nights. Casa Fiesta opens 7 days a week at 7005 Tree Lane in Madison. Call 608-203-5998. Casa Fiesta, where good times and great food come together.
You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Authorities in Las Vegas are learning more about yesterday's mass shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Sheriff Kevin McMahill says the gunman, Anthony Polito, upset after not getting a job at the school, mailed letters before the shooting.
The suspect had earlier visited a Henderson post office and sent 22 letters to various university personnel
across the country with no return address.
Investigators say they're still analyzing one envelope for a suspicious powder. 3 faculty members were killed. A 4th victim remains in the hospital. Israeli forces say they've encircled the home of a Hamas leader in southern Gaza, believed to be the mastermind of the October 7th attacks. Intense fighting also leading to more civilian fatalities in Gaza. U.S. federal prosecutors charging 2 Russian intelligence officers in a global hacking campaign, alleging they targeted former and current U.S. federal employees to gain access to their computers. This is ABC News.
Mad Radio 92.7 programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty studios. Solidarity Realty, there is an alternative.
If you're craving the authentic flavors of Mexico.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Wisconsin's fake Trump electors are admitting Joe Biden won the presidency in 2020. It's part of a civil lawsuit settlement announced yesterday. Jeff Mandel of the liberal firm Law Forward says they only wanted transparency and accountability from the 10 Republicans.
This isn't about vengeance. It's not about punishing or embarrassing anyone. It's making sure that the people of Wisconsin fully understand what happened and that we take steps to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Mandel was on the Devil's Advocate show on Civic Media. Wisconsin will spend $6 million to provide free driver's education classes to 15,000 teenagers. The goal is to cut down on reckless driving. Students who get free or reduced meals at school would qualify. It's one of dozens of bills Governor Evers signed into law yesterday. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Wiggyhout. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources is asking people to plan ahead on how they're going to get rid of their holiday tree this year. Officials say the best use for an old tree is either chipping or composting the tree. Old trees take up a lot of space in a landfill and create harmful greenhouse gases when breaking down. There are a number of licensed composter facilities across Dane County. A proposed Amtrak train route from Milwaukee to Madison to Minneapolis is getting $500,000 to help plan a new route. The route was one of 5 lines in Wisconsin selected as priorities for passenger rail expansion. The money will help with planning the scope, schedule, and final cost of developing a rail line. The money was announced by Senator Tammy Baldwin and comes from the federal bipartisan infrastructure law. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Wiggyhout, WMDX News.
When my daughter gets a cold, I have a secret weapon. Dayquil Kids Berry from Vicks. Dayquil Kids is specially formulated to treat kids' most bothersome cold and cough symptoms quickly. And the best part is that Dayquil Kids Berry tastes really great. Aren't you supposed to be resting? Maybe.
Dayquil Kids Berry. The kids' berrylicious daytime congestion, coughing, stuffy head, stuffy nose, just for kids. Medicine. Safe for kids 6 years plus.
Wisconsin basketball teams heating up. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Last night in college hoops, Marquette with a decisive 85-65 win over Texas. Marquette will play Notre Dame on Saturday night. The Wisconsin Badgers, after beating Michigan State, are headed to Tucson to take on number 1 ranked Arizona Saturday afternoon, 2:15. But we start with the NBA and Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Pacers in the second round of the in-season tournament.
Anytime you get put in a situation where everybody has an opportunity to win something, and in the end, only one person can win, I think that's an opportunity to show some level of dominance. Even though it's not the NBA Finals, you can show we all had this opportunity, and only one team is going to be the last team standing. And I think that's a confidence builder for any team. You know, I think it shows, you know, who's going to fight for it, who's going to go after it when the competition is at its highest. And I think you see in a lot of these in-season tournament games, you can see teams are going after it.
That's the Bucks' Damian Lillard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. 42 tonight, under partly cloudy skies, southerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. High of 54 tomorrow. Scattered rain showers likely tomorrow night, lows around 38. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 47 degrees.
Your smile says a lot about you. It can give you confidence and give great first impressions. At West University Family Dentistry, Dr. Thacker and his staff will help ensure your oral health is in top shape because oral health affects your overall health. From routine checkups to advanced treatments, they're here to keep your smile shining bright and to make your dental appointment as pleasant and stress-free as possible. Call West University Family Dentistry at 608-238-6244, 608-238-6244, or log on westuniversityfamilydentistry.com. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. Broadcasting from Civic Media Global Headquarters. Warning, you're about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Thursday edition. Happy first night of Hanukkah for those that celebrate. Happy Friday Eve to you, Dom.
Thank you, Michael.
A happy hour indeed, because you've been like a caged tiger for an hour. You want to talk about Trump at trial, the fraud trial in New York City. I know the former made an appearance in the courtroom and said some outrageous things. You know, nearly as outrageous as Vivek Ramaswamy. But you've been dying to talk about this all day, Dom.
I think it's
now is your time down
it
here,
is
Dom.
a time in history, man. I don't know how we cannot, discuss this. I mean, we talk, these Republicans debating yesterday, which apparently, according to the headline, it drudged the lowest rated debate ever. It was ever very, very bad. And contrast that with, of course, Trump today in court. And we'd have some sound of him walking into the court, not very happy, of course, because this is everything. This is Trump's name. This is his money, his storyline, man. This is his opportunity to defend himself. Although he may take the stand apparently on Monday. I think we got cut number 10. He calling her a lunatic, man. Tiss James, the AG, Trump, not a fan. Let's play that one. Cut 10, please.
We did nothing wrong. There were no victims. The bank loves us. The bank testified. They love us. We did absolutely nothing wrong. We never even defaulted. We never had a default letter sent to us. The bank said we were a perfect customer. The bank didn't even know why they were here. And yet you have people being murdered outside. All over the streets, they're being murdered. There's violent crime. And this attorney general who's crazed. She's a lunatic. The attorney general sits here because she knows that she has a judge, and no matter all the evidence, that judge is going to rule in her favor.
He already has. You've already lost your fraud trial. The rest of this is just you doing kabuki theater for the media and starting to lay the ground plan for how you're going to deal with your more substantial criminal prosecutions, which could come to trial as early as March. Of course, he's seeking to appeal his presidential immunity.
Yes, and what, double jeopardy because he was tried, quote unquote, impeached. Right. We got one more from Trump. I believe this may have been on his way out of the courtroom. I'm not sure. Let's play here. Cut 9.
The attorney general committed fraud. You just saw it right up there. She's a fraud. This whole case is a fraud. It's election interference. It's keeping me here instead of Iowa and New Hampshire. You just saw it. The attorney general's a fraud. She committed fraud.
Now, I would challenge that, sir. My understanding, you were not required to be in the courtroom today. She was not keeping you there.
And his
didn't
attorney
have to
failed
be there.
Ask for a jury trial, something we've heard him complain about
That's
nauseum.
kind of your fault. You only
I've
hire
got
the best people.
one other attributed quote to Trump from inside the courtroom. I think I need to lose some weight. Apparently, he doesn't like the courtroom sketches of him. There aren't photographs per se in the courtroom, but there are sketches. Donald Trump had some comments upon seeing the work of courtroom sketch artists in the New York fraud trial on Thursday. Speaking to MSNBC outside the courtroom, reporter Yasmin Vasagani, I'm sure that's not even close, said that Trump walked by the artist on the way out of the court and commented that the drawing was good, but when he came back, he had some criticism. Is that me? No, he's drawing some other random pumpkin-looking fella in the courtroom. Is that me? I think I need to lose some weight. It's unknown if Trump was saying that to himself or giving a veiled demand to the artist's perception. The sketch artist in court, they don't have to show you loyalty, you fat bastard.
But he demands loyalty from all at all times.
Dom, sketch artist pictures have been important to the Trump family members. When Don Jr. appeared, he begged the artist to make him look sexy. Another artist from Trump's first appearance on the stand in the fraud trial made him look thin, but he was criticized for giving him dainty hands. Dominic, a previous courtroom sketch from June drew criticism because it made Trump look about 40 or 50 years younger. Who does he think he is? Earl Ingram? That courtroom sketch artist was feeling very generous, the Lincoln Project commented at the time.
Yeah.
In his Washington, D.C. case, Trump was drawn looking old, meek, and angry. And Trump fans have responded with their own AI versions of the drawing, showing Trump sitting next to Jesus Christ. Right up there on the cross, Dom.
Yeah. 844-967-2789. On this, of course, the topic, the Washington Post reporting Trump appeals January 6th immunity ruling launching process that may delay the trial. Both appeals court and Supreme Court would have to rule on appeals quickly for the trial to begin before the 2024 election, according to the experts. He filed notice that he will appeal the D.C. judge's ruling that he's not immune from being charged with federal crimes for his efforts to undo the outcome of the 2020 election, either by his former role as president or the Constitution's rules for impeachment. The notice is a minor procedural step, but it sets in motion one of the most potentially consequential parts of Trump's legal saga as the first former president to be charged with crimes. How and when the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit and the Supreme Court handle his appeal could have a huge impact on whether Trump, who is again running for president, goes on trial before voters go to the polls in 2024 or ever. Trump's legal team says the charges that he conspired to obstruct the victory of Biden's victory should be thrown out for two reasons. We mentioned this: presidential immunity, and of course, they argue that charging him with trying to block the election results violates the legal principle of double jeopardy because he was already acquitted at the congressional impeachment for that conduct. Chutkin's 48-page opinion last week rejected those claims, as well as a different challenge that said the indictment never should have been filed because it improperly tries to criminalize Trump's constitutionally protected rights to speech and advocacy as a political candidate. Since the grand jury voted to bring the trial charges this summer, prosecutors have sought to try Trump as quickly as possible. Trump's lawyers have insisted their client needs and deserves more time, both as a defendant reviewing evidence and as a former president trying to get back into the White House. A little bit more here. Appeals courts consider very few legal issues before a criminal case goes to trial and a verdict is reached. But questions of immunity and double jeopardy are often among the exceptions because if the defendant is right that they cannot be charged, courts have held that they should not be forced to go through a trial at all.
When the rulings don't come down like the old man wants them to, talking about Trump,
right?
Sometimes he gets a little angry down behind closed doors. And we've got more testimony of that today from Cassidy Hutchinson. The Republican aide, I believe she was to the vice president, right? Republican, that's for sure. She didn't work in the Trump administration, because she was some sort of Democratic Antifa loyalist.
Democrat Antifa. If you're going to insult, you got to do it right, man.
My bad.
Yeah,
Democrat
okay.
Antifa loyalist, Marxist, leftist, right? She's
Yeah.
on their team. And she did give very compelling testimony during the J6, during the, the impeachment that probably will get the old man off for double jeopardy. But here's what's being reported today. Trump is a volcano that blasts ketchup magma, often behind closed doors, according to his former aide. That would make a hell of a commercial for like Heinz 57. Anticipation. You just see Trump reading the ruling and then
slow motion. Right.
Cassidy Hutchinson, the former aide to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, told MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell that Mar-a-Lago's walls and other gracing the 45th president have been splattered by ketchup following one of his alleged tantrums. Cassidy testified before the J6 Select Committee that she rolled up her sleeves to assist the White House valet rid the walls of the Oval Office dining room of ketchup after Trump went into a tizzy and tossed a plate of food when he learned that his then Attorney General Bill Barr came forward to dispel any notion that there had been widespread fraud in the 2020 election. What was his crime? Tell the truth. Take that, wall. Asked if the dish hurling was an isolated incident, Cassidy said it was not. There are several. That's probably being a little too underestimating there, Lawrence. Of all the reasons that Donald Trump should never be anywhere close to the Oval Office again, this may seem like a minor one, but it's volcanic temper. I hate people with tempers, Dom. Cassidy said the 45th president was incapable of controlling himself and erupted often. He deserves to be nowhere near the nuclear code button, she said. I think for an American listening to this, to know about how he reacts so irrationally and to think that his own handpicked attorney general is telling him that is the truth, I think we may let the ketchup be displayed on the walls of Mar-a-Lago. I'm sure there's plenty of it down there nowadays. I think there's more ketchup on the wall. A little bit more here from this reporting. Dom Hutchinson testified to various scenes taking place in the wake of the election, including Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani asking if she was excited about the 6th.
Can't wait. We'll be wild.
Referring to the gathering at the Capitol. We're going to the Capitol. It's going to be great. The president's going to be there. We're going to look powerful. She recalled the former New York City mayor saying, look powerful, Dom.
So powerful. So powerful.
Almost as powerful as he did standing in that parking lot in front of the Four Seasons landscaping.
Yes. Now there's a man who's got his
running down his face.
Act together.
Sidney Powell standing there with him. Once she returned to Meadows, she relayed the conversation, and she said he told her things might get real, real bad. Did they get bad, Don?
I think they got pretty bad. We actually
but
went
not
back.
According to Vivek Ramaswamy.
No, it's an inside job.
Or Ron Johnson.
Senator Ron Johnson.
Come back with us. Your phone calls could be next. Are you satisfied, Don? Are you satisfied with your care?
I'm never satisfied, Curdy.
Well, I guess we'll do more show then.
WMDX.
Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwi.com. That's Crute at darnwi.com.
Be a part of the resistance. Check out the Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson, Monday nights at 7 on the talk you can't ignore, Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX, and on the Civic Media.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. Going there next at 844-967-2789. Let's do it. Ross from Crawford County, you are up. Welcome, Ross. Happy days. What do you got for us?
Hey, guys. I just wanted to comment. I finally got a chance to listen to the interview with between Crute and CJ, and I wanted to compliment Crute on it. It was a really good interview, the way you were able to kind of slow him down. Because a lot of times when he calls in, he just kind of fires off statistics and yada yada. And you were able to slow him down, kind of put a face on him, sort of turn him from a caricature, which sometimes in my head, which is what I was starting to do. These guys I sometimes think are just like, they're not even real. So I just wanted to compliment you on that. And then the other thing is just
but that's like making Trump a real human being, isn't it? Isn't that counterproductive in some way, shape, or form, Ross?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, right. No, I think what it brings the reality home. Right, yeah. I mean, Trump is a real person, even though, he knows how to manipulate the media and such like that. And I think that was maybe kind of like my other point is that I'm imagining in history where you have these autocratic people that are able to manipulate large populations, all the people that are following him are these like real people. And when I look at these Republicans in this present day, there are very few that I can really hold what I would call a reasonably intelligent conversation. It just tends to be, this is what I believe, this is the conspiracy, or this is the conspiracy, or maybe just a quick other point that I've been, sort of thinking is that there's this big chunk of the MAGAs who, when Trump won in 2016, I think they really felt like the hand of God must have come down, because when in 2020 they were like, there's no way that Trump could have lost, and so the only way that they can process this is because they're just not really an open-minded thinking people. The only way you can process it is conspiracies. Climate change is a conspiracy. The deep state is a conspiracy. It's the only way that works for these people. But the real reason was just.
But Ross, you realize that Donald Trump is out there telling him it was rigged, right?
Right.
So if you believe the guy and you're persuaded by his shtick, and his shtick becomes, it was stolen from me. Well, I understand in some way, shape, or form why our friends, maybe our neighbors, our relatives might be outraged to think it was stolen from their candidate. I mean, if Bernie Sanders had come out and said, it was stolen from me after Super Tuesday in 2020, I guess that would have been, I would have tended to believe him. I would have tended to believe him. If he could have laid out some theory why it was stolen, why the primaries had been stolen from him.
Yeah. You'd give him a benefit of the doubt, but I think at a certain point, you'd probably look at Bernie and say, okay, maybe he lost a couple.
Well, I don't think Bernie would lose 61 court battles. If Bernie made the claim,
Well,
I would think he would have validity.
Right.
But
If you're
they
gonna
feel like their guy had validity. You know what I mean? They didn't think he was lying to them. Only he tells them the truth.
The Republicans, I'm calling them Republicans. This group of Americans, and these conservatives that listen to your station, the greatest station in the world. It's like I don't see that with the people that I converse with. That they would just sort of believe like that all this stuff is just a big conspiracy, and that all they have to do is just find one person on the internet who sort of confirms that climate change is just a conspiracy, that was all a big lie, and that big tech is this, and that the Jewish, wealthy Jews are like, trying to. It's like that seems to fall into a group of people that have just been like woken like a pack of dogs, and Trump was able to do that, and for whatever reason, and we've got to ride this damn thing out before, and hopefully it just do damage control.
Ross, you live in a more rural part of the state of Wisconsin, Crawford County, where I'm here in Dane and Dom's in Milwaukee County right now. More blue, more populous. So Are you seeing changes in attitudes, or are you starting to see the Trump signs coming out of the barns again? I mean, what's your assessment of your neighborhood, Ross?
Right. So Crawford County and this southwest part of the state is pretty interesting. There's a lot of people that are like agriculturally, they're sort of like what I call this alternative agriculture, and so these people like tend to be sort of more aware of what it takes to maybe survive as an organic farmer, what it takes to be a small farmer, because there's a lot of these kind of small farms here. But at the same time, the Trump signs are out there, and when I hang out at the bars, I don't instigate, but when I'm listening, and it's borderline full mag out here. It's almost like they're hiding out here, but it's full mag out here.
Ross, if I was want to go down that path a little bit with you, especially the bar talk, man, full mega, like what are the grievances? What are the concerns that you hear in the mega country, Ross?
I think okay, so it's going to be, the big thing out here is guns. They're going to take my guns. I think they really believe that there's the Biden conspiracy. I think that seems to be a lot of the talk. As to what actually motivates these are hardworking people out here. I mean, they're farmers, they get small business owners, and I think they sort of project onto the urban areas like Milwaukee or Madison or wherever, and they sort of see the welfare, whatever, the loafers or the little uppity students that are protesting, and they're like, why isn't everybody else just a hardworking, God-fearing, flag-waving American like me? And it's really sort of sad that they sort of follow this. I think Trump brings it out. I don't quite understand it, to tell you the truth.
You and me both, Ross, man. Appreciate the call,
man. I think it actually was preceded, at least here in the state of Wisconsin, where we most often spend our time, Dom, by the Scott Walker recall. The low propensity voters in the state of Wisconsin, up north there, hey, a bunch of them came out of the woodwork that had never voted before to vote against the Scott Walker recall. And in some same way, shape, or form, Trump harnessed that disaffected electorate. And what Scott Walker did is he turned Wisconsinite against Wisconsinite. He made it very much a pitched battle. Kathy Kramer, I think, did a great study on this, great book, the urban-rural divide in the state of Wisconsin. And it was those lazy urban people. And he, of course, meant Democrats or black people or however he characterized them. And, of course, it was big government union bosses. You remember the vernacular he used. And he made people working in the private sector resent those that would get those Cadillac deals from state government. What he failed to acknowledge is those people often traded a lower overall wage, or they looked at the totality of the compensation, but oftentimes state labor doesn't pay as well as labor in the private sector. And of course, Act 10. Act 10, that was the stick it to everybody action of the former governor of the state of Wisconsin. And the recall was really about the reaction to Act 10 and whether or not this should stand here in the state of Wisconsin, whether, the progressive nature of the state should change so radically. But it did, at least from a governance point of view. And it actually brought out the low propensity voters. And if it's not Trump, I don't think Nikki Haley turns them out. I don't see anyone else except for Trump turning them out. So when you talk about the fear these Republicans have of their own base, what they fear is if they don't continue to gin these disaffected, low propensity voters, if they don't keep them angry and directed at something, well, they'll never win another election, because without them, they're back to being a crappy second-rung party. Come back. More Devils. Your phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789.
Streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. This is Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Wisconsin is getting $2.5 million to study new Amtrak service in Madison, Green Bay, and Eau Claire that would connect with Milwaukee, Chicago, and the Twin Cities. Wisconsin is also getting federal grants to support studying expanding service between Milwaukee and Chicago on the existing Hiawatha line as well as adding a third daily round trip between Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Twin Cities. A Republican prosecutor says he plans to appeal this week's court ruling allowing consensual abortions in Wisconsin. Dane County Judge Diane Schlipper ruled this week that Wisconsin's 1849 law outlaws someone from attacking a woman in an attempt to kill a fetus. Sheboygan County DA Joel Ermansky maintains state law clearly outlaws abortions. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WMDX News, I'm Nate Weggehout. Developers in Verona are proposing to build a new full-service event center. The plan got an initial hearing before the city's Plan Commission Monday night. It would replace a dilapidated truck stop along West Verona Avenue. The developers say that the proposed event center could allow for larger gatherings than what is currently available in Verona, such as an indoor food market. Verona Area Chamber of Commerce Director Lee Jordan says that they've been wanting a new event center in town for years. The Old Brook Botanical Gardens annual model train and flower show has returned. The display of model trains and seasonal flowers and foliage is on display now. The Wisconsin Garden Railway Society controls the trains and switches out new ones every day. This year, the display highlights a variety of homegrown Wisconsin goods, including crimson cranberry bogs and ginseng fields. And that's what you need to know. I'm Nate Weggehout, WMDX News.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
If I could be you. Wisconsin basketball teams heating up. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Last night in college hoops, Marquette, a decisive 85-65 win over Texas. Marquette will play Notre Dame on Saturday night. The Wisconsin Badgers, after beating Michigan State, headed to Tucson to take on number 1 ranked Arizona. Saturday afternoon, 2:15. But we start with the NBA and Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Pacers in the second round of the in-season tournament.
Anytime you get put in a situation where everybody has an opportunity to win something, and in the end only one person can win, I think that's an opportunity to show some level of dominance. Even though it's not the NBA Finals, you can show we all had this opportunity, and only one team is going to be the last team standing. And I think that's a confidence builder for any team. You know, I think it shows, you know, who's going to fight for it, who's going to go after it when the competition is at its highest. And I think you see in a lot of these in-season tournament games, you can see teams are going after it.
That's the Bucks' Damian Lillard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Weather brought to you by the Wine and Hop Shop, Madison's local source for home brewing and winemaking supplies at affordable prices.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. 42 tonight, under partly cloudy skies, southerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. High of 54 tomorrow. Scattered rain showers likely tomorrow night. Lows around 38. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 44 degrees.
Love wine or beer? Make your own. The Wine and Hop Shop has home brewing and winemaking starter kits for all budgets. With our free expert advice, making your own is fun, easy, and delicious. Visit the Wine and Hop Shop at 1919 Monroe Street in Madison and at wineandhop.com today. Give the gift of a hobby with a home brewing or winemaking starter kit from the Wine and Hop Shop. The shop starter kits and free expert advice make brewing beer and making wine a snap. Be a holiday hero and visit the Wine and Hop Shop at 1919 Monroe Street in Madison or wineandhop.com today.
Whether you're hanging out on State Street or hanging out on the lakes, thanks for listening.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Driving that train, how cocaine.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Thursday, make it Friday Eve up in here edition, a happier happy hour. And Dom, part of the electoral campaign of Scotty Wanker, the Wanker, Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, was to kill the high-speed rail between Milwaukee and Madison. And if I recall correctly, you supported him killing the high-speed rail. Although I don't mean to put words in your mouth. Maybe I misremember, but I thought you were down for that.
It was the issue of maintenance costs and the fact that it wasn't technically a high-speed rail. There were some issues with it, but what we didn't know at the time was that getting out of the contract would cost the state of Wisconsin like what 30-50 million dollars to not take the train. So that's asinine in hindsight, certainly.
But the ongoing maintenance costs would have been nearly $22 million over the course of like
It
2
was
decades.
like,
huh?
yeah, right, dude. Yeah.
And
Yes.
you recall that that's in some part what got Scott Walker elected to the governorship of the state of Wisconsin. I think the failure to accept almost $1 billion investment in high-speed rail, I think it's so short-sighted. I mean, nearly as short-sighted as the indefensible decision by Scott Walker and still current to this day Republicans that have failed to take the Medicaid expansion for working class and poor Wisconsinites. Because they could have, but they've turned back billions of dollars.
They still
for
can,
Medicaid
can't they? I
expansion.
mean, they could right
Still
now.
could.
Yeah,
Still
still
could. Well, here's a headline locally, and this affects really damn near everyone in our listing area, all the way from KTNF 950 AM, the progressive voice of Minnesota, Dom, up in the Twin Cities, all the way down to WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. What if you could ride the rails from here to there and include Madison and Eau Claire, maybe La Crosse? Well, here's a huge win. Madison to start planning new Amtrak routes. Yeah, about 12 years too late. I know you and I both have made that commute, fella.
Oh, yeah.
Madison will start planning on how to connect the state capital to Chicago, Milwaukee, and the Twin Cities via passenger rail after the city received about $500,000 in development grants from the Federal Railroad Administration. Wisconsin will receive a total of $2.5 million statewide for planning new Amtrak routes for the Corridor Identification and Development Program funded by the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And how do we know this? Tammy Baldwin, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, still undefeated. She made the announcement via press release today. Specifically, the Corridor ID program will support the creation of new routes on the existing Hiawatha service line from, wait for it, Dom, Milwaukee to Madison to Eau Claire. I like the Milwaukee to Madison part, and I love Eau Claire. It's a beautiful part of the state. Eau Claire to the Twin Cities. Milwaukee to Green Bay. Wouldn't that be a great thing for Packer games?
Yes.
You guys with the gold package, with the Packer tickets. You know, the Milwaukee seats twice a year. You got to drive up there and either pay 8 times too much for an overpriced hotel room, or you got to make your way back to Milwaukee and hope to keep her between the lines. Chicago via La Crosse to St. Paul.
Ooh, I like that one.
Well, I think a lot of people would like that one. People like mass transit. The funds will also help make improvements on the existing Milwaukee to Chicago line. It's a huge win for moving passenger rail forward in Wisconsin, including Madison, according to Liz Kalin, transportation planner for the city, who oversees this Amtrak project. Having those routes being accepted into the Corridor ID program is a crucial component, certainly for the Madison Station development. This is a unique opportunity, and we're thrilled to see these efforts moving forward. You know, we would have had a high-speed rail station, my understanding, over by the Monona Terrace, a couple of blocks down the road from where I'm at here, block or two from the Wisconsin State Capitol. But guys like you had to have it your way, Dom.
Crute, the passage of the infrastructure bill in 2021 freed up historic levels of funding for a new intercity passenger rail service in Madison. In December 22, the city started planning how to use that money and looking for a location for a future station. So yes, interesting.
Here are the possibles, Dom. Near the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus, downtown near the Monona Terrace, that was the original bright idea. On 1st and East Washington Avenues, that would be near east side of Madison. And on the near east side, on the west of Fair Oaks Ave, the site of the former Oscar Mayer plant. And lastly, and this would make a lot of sense, how about at the Dane County Regional Airport, where you can already, long park the car for a fairly reasonable amount of money. People are used to going there because that is a transportation depot. That would make a lot of logical sense to me, Dom. What do you think?
Crute Madison tried to get high-speed passenger rail in the city over a decade ago, a project that was ultimately killed, as you mentioned, by former Republican Governor Scott Walker. Mayor Satya Rose Conway has been vocal about her support for bringing passenger rail service to the city, despite pushback from Republican state leaders. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said there would be no state funding for the project last year. Collins said at this point the city is not pursuing any state funding sources. One of the great things about this corridor ID program is that it is a 100% federally funded program, which is extremely rare in transportation, she said, explaining how there is no such local match requirement. Wisconsin is extremely successful in their application. They got all 4 of the corridors they applied for, and it's all fully federally funded. It's just a great opportunity. The mayor said in the statement, this funding from the infrastructure law is an important step. The city's already working to identify an accessible station site that would meet operational needs and encourage economic development. Our hope is that a new Madison Amtrak station would become a dynamic destination woven into the fabric of a vibrant city, and that rail service will better connect us to our neighbors in Milwaukee, Eau Claire, and beyond, like Chicago and Minneapolis.
We like to party in all those cities now.
We do.
844-967-2789. Well, only 12 years too late. And this does seem like a broader expansion. This is bigger than the proposed almost $1 million infrastructure project that guys like you turned your nose up at because there might have been some ongoing maintenance cost, like $22 million. But better to spend $50 not to do it, just to pay off the Talgo manufacturing company that then use those high-speed rails somewhere else.
California specifically, which I believe they're still working.
Where Eric Hovde's from?
They're still working on that rail. When Steph and I were in Europe, we took the high-speed rail, literally high-speed rail from Rome to Naples, and this thing went like 180, 190 miles an hour, man. I mean, you flew on this thing. So this isn't high speed, right? This is an Amtrak. We're not talking about high-speed rail specifically. We're talking about expansion of the current Amtrak system, if I'm reading this correctly.
You're right, Dom. The high-speed rail would have come under Walker, but he killed it, and you agreed. So this is not a high-speed rail under.
Nor was. Come on, let's be honest. That original.
Supposed to average like 80, 90 miles per hour.
Yeah, right.
If I recall correctly.
Again, high-speed rail that I was just on last year was going 190 miles an hour.
Well, that just tells us how far behind the investment of the Europeans we are. So better to do nothing? Better to continue to drive down our interstate highway system and let guys like Scott Walker decide whether or not, potholes are tolerable?
Well, you don't want to get the orange barrel fatigue, Crute.
I certainly got that. Because the Marquette interchange and mostly greater Milwaukee was under construction.
Oh, it never stops. But
the years I was commuting there.
Yeah. I don't, the pricing, lots of things to think about. Am I for a greater expansion of the rail? Sure. Do I use it now? No, I don't. Would I use it in the future? Perhaps. How fast does it go? What are the rates on the tickets? It's certainly nice to be able to, get some work done while you're traveling. I totally appreciate that. So there's lots of things that go into it. But what is it about the connectivity? Why it can't be just the money? Is it more than the money? Do you not want people from big metropolitan areas easily connected? Is that philosophically somehow go against your political gain ideology?
Republicans?
Yeah, there'll be no state money. No state money, Robin Vos said, for anything here for rail, right?
Well, they oppose. I mean, look at how they treated the hop in Milwaukee. They oppose any mass transit, anything that moves the people, anything that could be construed as being a fight back against climate change, because of course that doesn't exist. We all live on this flat earth, don't you know, Dom? So I would say that this is politics at its worst. No state money for federal investment in the infrastructure here in the state of Wisconsin, the interconnection of damn near every one of our major cities, because that includes Milwaukee, Green Bay, La Crosse, Eau Claire, and Madison. Those are your 5 major metropolitans, perhaps excepting Wausau.
Well, and I would point out, and to some degree, I would assume most of those are probably trending blue.
Shocker. Most cities do.
All right. So why would they want to, again, if you're being purely political about it, why would you want to connect the blue areas and make them even better and more efficient?
Don't you need workers here, Dom? I mean, really, I want to answer your rhetorical question with the actual logic, because there is no way in hell the young people are staying in the state of Wisconsin unless we start making some investments in our state. I would say the UW system would be a good start. And since this is all federal funding and Robin Voss really doesn't get a jackass
Say
veto,
right.
I would say we accept the federal dollars, we put the infrastructure in place because it makes it a better state. Do you know if you live in the state of Wisconsin and a highway does not go through your county, you're screwed. Do you know how hard it is to keep someone on the farm, on the whatever, if there's no interstate in your community? Because you probably don't have the same sort of investment in cell phone technology. You probably don't have the same investment in the high-speed internet, because Joe Biden's trying to bring us that here in the state of Wisconsin. If I recall, Scott Walker was killing that too. That was part of his campaign. Kill the high-speed internet. Tell me, you, my little buddy, tell me the logic of killing federal investment, $26 million at the time in the high-speed internet. Why?
Oh, Crute, going to make me tax. Oh, I didn't agree with it,
'Cause
Crute, but I
Obama was
think
the
no,
president.
I think their excuse was something about the bidding process, but I'd have to go back and look it
Because
up.
Obama was the president. Why didn't we expand Obamacare? Oh, yeah, because Obama was the president. Why didn't we expand the high-speed rail? Because Obama was the president. Why didn't we expand high-speed internet, which would be great for our rural business owners? Allow people to stay closer to home and maybe have a fighting chance in this entrepreneurial world, this capitalist world we live in. Why? Because he's a self-serving, well, I can't say most of what I'm thinking right now, but all he wanted to do was run for president. All he wanted to have was an anti-Obama agenda. That was enough. It was enough to oppose the federal government, right? Drown it in a bathtub. Him and Grover Norquist. And of course, tax cuts for his rich friends.
Always the tax cuts, Crute. That's the solution for everything. And if you look at the national debt that we now carry, you can trace a large majority of those tax cuts right to the national debt.
Well, here's what I would say. If we're ballooning the national debt, at least we're doing so currently for infrastructure investment.
Right.
Investment. I mean, Republicans, they act like they're the party of business, but they don't know the word investment. Investment means you spend money to make things better because you hope by investing in that thing, like, let's say, high-speed rail, or even just a commuter rail corridor throughout the state of Wisconsin, connecting Chicago and Minneapolis and Eau Claire and Green Bay and Madison. That would be very important to many people. Might keep them here in the great state of Wisconsin. That would be an investment. And when you don't take the other investment, the federal government investment in healthcare and high-speed rail and broadband internet, you're just a freaking loser. Right, Scott Walker? Look in the mirror. Loser. Sorry, I get a little personal about this. Folks, we're the devil's advocates. It's never personal. Only politics. 844-967-2789.
Trouble with you is the trouble.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
You know Ignite Glass and Gifts 3 locations in Madison, but you can also shop IgniteGlassandGifts.com. You'll find grinders, lighters, collectibles, hand-blown glass water pipes, artistically designed jewelry, and plenty of other items delivered straight to your door or to family and friends. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts. Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and O'Dana Road. Plus, IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
This is Mad Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, our last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now. Toll free on the lines at 844-967-2789.
Of course, the incomparable Maggie Dawn comes next, the Maggie Dawn Show. And then Dom, I'm going to encourage the listeners here to try Black Convergence at 7 o'clock here on WMDX in Madison. Our friend Brandy Grayson is the host of that show.
Yeah.
And she is a very dynamic person. So she comes in here soon. I try to leave the place clean and stuff because Brandy scares me a little bit. 844. I mean, as a powerful human being of dynamic personality, I don't want to be on her bad side. 844-967-2789. Give her a listen. Quite entertaining. Let's get to the phones. Always like when our audience participates. Let's start with Nick from Madison, one of our conservative buddies. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, Nick.
I'm doing great, guys. Hey, how you doing? Good to talk to you again. Well,
You heard me ranting my anti-Walker rant. Tell me which part of it I got wrong. The failure to accept the Medicaid, the failure to expand the rail, and the failure to expand broadband internet. Which part did I get wrong?
I'm with you 2 on 3. It's the rail that I'm thinking of, and my reason for it is, and Dom, you brought up another. Pretty much, what I'm thinking is that it'd be nice, it'd be really nice, but except for a couple very small rail lines that are right now in the States, I'm thinking between Chicago and Milwaukee and some East Coast ones, Amtrak loses money every year. And the high-speed rail in California, they've been working on that for over 2 decades. And it was supposed to be like a 5-year project. And it keeps ballooning. And it'd be nice. And other countries do it. I've been on one. They're great. But if you build it,
we as Americans are not capable of making the trains run on time, Nick? Come on, man. We're better than that.
When have we? I'm not saying we can't make them on time. I'm saying people won't ride it.
Sure, Nick. But let me ask you this though. How much money do we make on the interstate system?
Highway system.
Yeah. How much money are we making there, Nick?
On the highway system?
Yes.
Unless it's a toll.
Right. We're not. Right. It's cost. It's not. These things are not necessarily right. These aren't necessarily something you're going to get a return in pure dollars on. It's the expansion of the economy. It's the ability for people to go from A to B without using a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, same thing, man. How much money is there in anything the government will pay for to provide? How much money are we making on our defense, Nick? What's the Pentagon? What's the return on that? You know what I'm saying? Not everything is a specific dollar return on the money spent.
Well, Dom, I actually have to say, the highways do make us money because gas taxes go to fix roads. But
that doesn't cover the cost. Come on, man. Are you serious?
You serious, Clark?
What I'm saying is trains in America, in other countries they do, but trains in America have never made money. But this is going to be the first time. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying.
Well, I'll let you say it, Nick. You just said it, so we don't have to. Appreciate your call, though. Thanks for listening.
It's not about making money, man. That's the whole point. How does Highway 94 between Milwaukee and Detroit make us money? How much money are we making? What's a return on that? Well, it's not that. It's be able to get the goods back and forth, right? You got lots of semis on the road. There's huge costs for those things. This isn't about a specific. We're going to put a $10 million road together, and the state's going to get $1 million, 10% return every year on that. That's not how it works, Nick. So to try to apply that kind of payback for a public service, a road, which everybody, as far as I know, everyone's down with the road socialism. Everyone's down with the snowplow socialism. Everyone's down with the fire department socialism. But all of a sudden, you do some of these other things, and we need a return. I just think we need to be very clear on what the expectations are and what we're actually getting for the money.
I can't believe Nick thinks the American people are incapable of running a profitable rail system. Maybe we got to have a rail system and try it once. When was it profitable? When did we ever have it? 844-967-2789. Try to sneak a few more calls in. Bill from Milwaukee. Bill.
Yes.
You're up.
Hey, Bill.
Thank you much. I thought your last caller seemed to be coming from the basic premise of libertarianism, which is basically that nothing should be done unless if a private sector can't do something and make a profit doing it, then it shouldn't be done, and that's ridiculous. I would also say that your point about young people want transit, they want rail options available. Very true. It shows where they're settling, and the funniest part of that was when Scott Walker was governor, and they had noticed that young people were leaving the state, not wanting to settle here. On an advertising campaign in the Chicago area,
yes,
to come back to Wisconsin. And where did they run the ads to reach them? They ran them at Metra, commuter rail, and CTA transit stations.
Bill, I can only say one thing. Wanker!
That's a great point, Bill. Thanks, man.
967-2789. Hate to cut you short, trying to sneak a few more callers in, like Rico from Rock County. How you doing, Rico?
Hey, Rico.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing from your earlier caller, Ross from Crawford County, and I had to give you my first time in Prairie du Chien story. I can back up. He said that guns were like the most important thing. The first time ever over there, I went there for a blues festival, needed some beer when I got there. So I went downtown looking for a liquor store, found me a liquor store, got out of my car, went in, and I must have not been paying attention, went through the door, looked to my immediate left, and saw every gun ever manufactured in the world. It seemed every type of gun, pistol, and rifle. And then I looked to my right, and there was every type of alcohol in the world imaginable. I had to do it. It's the only place I've ever seen that. It was like I was going into Twilight. It's like, did anybody ever think about maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying, guys.
Maybe not selling the booze and the guns at the same time.
You know what I told him?
What?
You want to know what I told him?
Quickly.
So me and Rico, I walked up. I went up to him. I said, I want your cheapest gun, one bullet, and a bottle of your finest whiskey. He said, we don't sell bullets individually.
Great story, Rico. Thanks for listening, buddy. A few of the texters. I don't need to own a car because of the railroad. It'd be a $46,000 return for me.
Right.
Others ask, how's the Milwaukee trolley doing? That was supposed to be great for mass transit in Milwaukee. Well, I get your point sometimes. Folks, thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We'll air the grievances on Friday. Mine is not. The fine programming that comes next. She is Maggie Dawn, the Maggie Dawn Show, Black Convergence here in Madison, and our friend, Joel Clayfish, raised in Wisco on the WAUK. Keep it locked. Civic Media.